The Fujifilm X100T is probably my favorite camera that I've ever owned. I'm going to tell you guys why. All right, so a little bit about this camera. This was released September 10th of 2014, so just over 7 years ago now. So this thing is rocking a 16.3 megapixel CMOS sensor, APS-C, a crop size sensor. So this is not full frame. This is basically a high quality, top of the line point and shoot camera. Now, some of the high points with this camera, I'll just get right off the bat before I even get into like my favorite parts of this. 16.3 megapixel sensor. It has a f2 35 millimeter equivalent. I think it's a 23 millimeter, but on the crop sensor, it's a 35 millimeter equivalent. It has a really sweet hybrid EVF. If you guys don't know, that's the electronic viewfinder, where it can either be completely electronic or it can be, what would you call it? Optical. Or it could be completely optical, but it has like a digital overlay that gives you information over top of it, but you're still seeing an optical viewfinder. It really gives you that retro look, kind of like a DSLR type of feel with that. This thing has a 3-inch 1 million dot LCD on the back. It's not swivel, it doesn't articulate, it doesn't anything. It looks really good, really sharp, perfect for the feel of the camera. This thing does macro shooting up to down to 10 centimeters away, so it has a macro mode, has built-in ND filters, and this was the first model that offered the in-camera film simulations, which was a really big deal. That's one reason why you'd want to get the T over the S. The second iteration, does not have those film simulations. All right, so since we just rattled off the specs there, let me get into why I bought this camera and why I love it and why it's probably my favorite camera that I've ever owned, for taking pictures at least. So the cool thing about these cameras, obviously, is they're super retro looking. And like I said before, this is just basically a glorified point and shoot camera. It has one lens on it. These aren't interchangeable. There's no screen that flips out in the back. This is pretty much a point and shoot camera. But the look, the feel, the weight of it, it's just so, like, if that's what you're going for, like me personally, I love retro tech, quote retro tech, and this camera being 7 years old, it was, even when it was released 7 years ago, and the X100Vs, the fifth iteration, I keep saying iteration counter, the fifth version of this camera still has the same look. This is going for that retro film camera look, and it's spot on. The second thing that I really like about this is the portability of this. So I'm filming on a A7 III right now, and I have a couple other Sony cameras that are a lot bigger, right? This thing can fit in a coat pocket. It's not going to fit in your jeans. Don't get too excited about that. But if you're a female or somebody that likes to use a satchel or a purse, this can fit right in there. This is a perfect, what some people would call, day camera or walking around camera, that is super portable. It doesn't look like you're carrying around a DSLR. You're not going to bring attention to yourself, even if you don't really care about the specs or whatever. This is just such a fun camera to take around, take pictures with, and just feel like you're taking film pictures, but with a digital camera that you don't have to wait 2 weeks to get the film back, because there's no CVSs anymore that will develop film for you within an hour. My next favorite thing is this lens on this thing. So it's a 35 millimeter equivalent, and they say that what your eye sees is 35 millimeters. So what you see in real life is what you're going to see when you put your eye up to this viewfinder and you take a picture. It's basically documenting exactly what the world is around you. Unlike like what I'm shooting on here is a 24 millimeter, which is wider than that, or say a 50 millimeter, which would be more zoomed in or cropped in than what you're seeing in life. This is just meant to be able to document what you see, take pictures of it, and keep it forever. But this thing is a f2. I've heard people say that it gets a little bit dull or a little bit soft when you go down to f2. I'm going to show you guys some pictures here. This thing is amazing. I was so blown away the first time that I took pictures with this. I can remember I got it in, and we had like a little cookout, and that's what I'm going to show you these pictures of, that they just came out so good for a crop sensor camera for something that looks like this, that's like just so unexpected. Obviously, I love the viewfinder in this. I'm somebody that's always liked an optical viewfinder. I can remember having cameras early on, like compact cameras that were interchangeable lenses that had electronic viewfinders that were just awful. It just made me love DSLR optical viewfinders even more. But cameras have been getting so good lately that it's nice to be able to see what your pictures are going to turn out like before you take the picture, versus like with a DSLR, and you have to take 10 pictures to get the exposure right, get the settings right, the shutter speed, all that kind of stuff. This one in here is really, really good, and it's really cool to be able to have the overlays over the optical, or have the full EVF electronic viewfinder to see what your picture is going to look like before. One little thing I would say about this is when you turn the camera on, the lens, you kind of hear it. The lens, like, it almost like autofocuses, it pulls in and out. And I've read that if you have this lens cap on, which this is a really nice metal lens cap, if you have this lens cap on, when you turn it on, it can screw with the lens, and over time, if you do it too many times, it can screw up. This is really cool that it has a manual f-stop mode. So it's like my G Master that I'm using right now, the 24mm, that you can adjust the f-stop through the lens with a ring. It's so cool. And you have a focusing ring on here if you want to get really, really technical, manual focus all your stuff. It's fun. Now, probably the biggest pain in the butt with this camera is the batteries. Now, the batteries that I have one FujiFilm, and it came with two other off-brand batteries. They're small batteries and they're old, and the FujiFilm battery is 7 years old at this point in time. It's been charged how many times? It doesn't last very long. It's unfortunate. You might have to go out with 3 or 4 batteries in your pocket, but is it worth it? I think so. I think it's better than like carrying around like 3 or 4 rolls of film, and like I said, having to wait like 2-3 weeks to like send them out to some company and whatever. Let me go off script here with you guys and just like kind of just tell you why this is so cool. This is just so interesting to me in like the world that we live in right now. Like, not talking about specs, numbers, like megapixels, all that kind of stuff. This is such like a just go out and take pictures camera, and like not worry about things, and like just the look and the feel and the weight and like the lens it has on it, the 35mm and the f2, and it still has 16 megapixels. Like we live in a day and age now, it's like it's 2021, where like cameras coming out now have 40 megapixels, like 50 megapixels, these crazy cameras, and you think like, oh man, like this camera is 7 years old, it can't be that great, like it's only has 16 megapixels. My iPhone 12 mini has 12 megapixels, and the sensor on that thing is tiny. It takes great pictures. I think that people need to realize that we lived through a technological boom where things got so crazy so fast, and like it's kind of like tapering off and things are slowing down. You can still buy 10-year-old cameras, or 7-year-old cameras, 5-year-old cameras, and they're still going to be really, really good. I think that this would be a great choice for somebody, like for you, or with the holidays coming up. It's almost 2022. If you wanted to pick up a camera for somebody and you didn't want to spend $1,400 on a brand new one of these things, I think it's a great camera. The batteries suck. Buy more batteries. This is the equivalent to me of like having a really awesome film camera that you can see the pictures immediately. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this very informal review of the FujiFilm X100T. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, like older tech, like I said, like I have like this weird obsession with like older cameras, computers, stuff like mid 2000s that still works, is still good. Let me know, drop a comment. We'll see what we make here in the future. On that note, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.